Hi, my name is Malia Lazu, and thank you so much for joining us for this most timely conversation. The COVID pandemic has led to bear many of our vulnerabilities as a nation and as a society. We have the tragedy of close to 250,000 dead. Work and education is being redefined, and we have an economy in need of rebuilding. Purpose-driven corporations are innovating a way forward and a rebuild in an equitable way. These are companies who stand for something larger than a product or a service and bring meaning to an organization and its work. Purpose-driven companies also have integrated strategies and metrics to measure social good. More recently, it's becoming an expected norm. We see that corporate social responsibility has a growing importance, not only to consumers, but the workforce, with 86% of consumers looking to purchase and support brands that have a social good, and a millennial workforce willing to take a pay cut, 56% of them, to work for a company that does good in the world. So today we're going to hear from three executives who are guiding companies to innovate with impact and explore three crucial themes of internal culture, employee engagement and support, scaling impact. These are all things needed to help build and show proof of purchase. This conversation is a starter, and we hope to plant seeds in your thinking that will grow in you and in your leadership. So let's get started. It's my pleasure to introduce Jimmy Etheredge, the CEO of North America at Accenture, Kate Johnson, the president of Microsoft US, and Calvin Butler, the CEO of Exelon Utilities. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Malia.
With our first question, I want to get started with a theme that came up as we were prepping in conversations with all of you. And that was the importance of culture in order to have an impact. And Jimmy, we're going to start with you. Accenture has this powerful new brand campaign called Let There Be Change. And it embraces the power of change, not only as individuals, but in the world. And I was hoping that you could speak to how this brand shift is really driving change in your company and with your clients.
Well, thanks, Malia. I am really excited about this new brand. It's bold and it's an inspiration, I think, for how we and our clients can embrace change and create opportunities and benefits for all. And this, for us, this brand really represents our purpose. So we think of that as to deliver on the promise of technology and human ingenuity. And we use that purpose to guide our culture, as you said, our strategy and priorities, and the opportunities that we create for more than 500,000 people that work for us, and to guide the work that we do with our clients. We think with our scale and our clients, we can make a difference in the world. And as we help our clients transform and reinvent their businesses, we're also helping them create greater opportunities for their people, as well as becoming more sustainable. And I think importantly, if you look at our research, it shows that when purpose leads the way, success and results will follow. In 2015, if you look at the companies ranked in the top 3% in both financial and non-financial metrics, they grew their profit margins, expanded them by over 3% versus a 1% drop in the rest of those sectors. And so I think it's important to see the strong relationship between that sense of purpose and results. And I'll just give you two quick examples. One, Halliburton, one of the largest service providers in the energy industry. Accenture, along with our friends at Microsoft, are working with them to migrate all their data centers to the green cloud, which is going to result in less consumption for a more sustainable future. But as well, with their more than 50,000 employees in 80 countries, they're going to be new skilled in the cloud with digital technologies. And another quick one is Best Buy. We're working with Best Buy. They announced an ambitious goal to hire 1,000 people, so create 1,000 opportunities in their digital and technology business, and 30% of those are going to be diverse. And so Accenture is going to be working with them to do the recruiting, the hiring and the training, opening up our online libraries of content, as well as our 12-week digital boot camp. So Malia, I think purpose drives change and it drives results. And that's what we really need right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kate, Calvin, I'd love to pull you in here to really speak about the importance of culture in creating purpose. And Calvin, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Thanks, Malia, and thank you guys for having me this afternoon. I would tell you that purpose is really the driving force. When you look at Exelon and think about what our purpose is, powering a cleaner and brighter future for our customers and communities, that's the underlying foundation. And this year, especially this year, your purpose can get tested. When you're sitting back going through the unrest that we've had, the pandemic, and you are responsible for keeping the lights on and the gas flowing for 10 million customers in some of the largest cities in the US, it tests the foundational elements of who you are. And I believe the purpose, to your point, if it's not solidified already, it's so easy to get distracted. So 50% of my employees every day are out in the field. These men and women are working to keep the lights on and the gas flowing. And it is that purpose that drives them, because as more people are working from home, they really need the essential elements of electricity and gas. Having said that, as more people are out of work, we had to determine who we are as a company and how we were going to lean in to be part of the solution. So we were one of the first utilities across the country, as we serve our 10 million customers, to sit back and said, no disconnects. You have a lot to worry about, but we are not going to disconnect you. This moratorium, and then a lot of governors entered into this moratorium. Second, we said, hey, by the way, let's really work on payment arrangements. When you come out of this, another thing, reduce the stress level of our customers. All of this was in furtherance of our purpose, because we wanted our customers and our communities to know that we're in this with them, and we were going to be with them every step of the way. We uplifted our community giving in terms of our dollars. In each of our jurisdictions, we put millions more to keeping those nonprofits that were so essential to keep serving our customers in the communities. When many people said, hey, we can't continue to give because we leaned in. And I think that's who Exelon is. And that's what I was so proud of the organization, and more importantly, the people, because each day they showed up and they sat back and said, we're going to continue to exist. And you guys know better than anyone, the storms that have come through this spring, summer, and fall, busiest storm season, our people were showing up every day, helping one another across the country and doing it in these adverse circumstances, leaving the concern of getting sick out of the way. We had to change so many things of what we had to do, but they stepped up each and every time. And I think, to your point, it was the purpose, understanding it and fulfilling it, that drove that.
Thank you so much. And I think what you both are talking about is this idea of the feeling inside, right? You're not just showing up for a paycheck, you're showing up for a team, you're showing up for a mission. And Kate, we'd love to just pull you in now to talk about how you see culture at Microsoft. And because you're going to be getting our next question, if you want to talk a little bit about empathy and proximity as well, which I think is a core part of Microsoft's culture and something that's unique and important.
Thank you so much. Yeah, for sure. And everything that the two gentlemen have talked about just totally resonates with us as well. Culture enables purpose. And our culture, we think about it as really how people come together. It's the character of our company. And it starts with really understanding what the purpose is, right? So, to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more, that's our mission and our purpose. But what does that mean? I think traditionally we thought that was workplace productivity, but really we think about it more at the macroeconomic level. It's about driving productivity for, a farmer who's producing more crops but needs to do so profitably and sustainably. It's about, helping a consumer products company leverage the data that they have to put the right products on the right shelf at the right time to maximize, their productivity. But in a pandemic world, Achieving more is different. It could be about helping healthcare workers drive up survival rates. It's about helping a real estate company figuring out how to assess the health of a building. It could be about helping a person who's lost their job in the pandemic figure out how to get new skills to go get a new job in the digital world. It can mean so many different things. And I think if you're gonna actually achieve that purpose, your culture has to support it. We've been very, very clear on what our culture is. It's a couple of things. Number one, you just can't help people achieve more unless you really understand them. So we have to be obsessed with what our customers' problems are. That requires that empathy, Malia, that you were just talking about. There's no way that you can actually drive digital transformation and all of this notion of increased productivity through innovation without a growth mindset. You have to be open to learning. You can't show it up thinking you know the answer, because none of us have lived through this before. We have to figure it out together. And there's no way you can do it without being diverse and inclusive. Because if you're going to help everybody in the world to achieve more, you have to actually understand what all those people and organizations need. And you have to have people on your workforce that look like them and think like them. And what that means is building a company that not only represents the markets that you serve, but also harnesses the brain power of everybody inside, so that you could take full advantage of what they know and the perspectives that they drive to deliver all of that value. So in our view, culture really kind of enables our purpose, and you can't really separate the two. And if you think about it, the superpower that's required across all of that has got to be empathy. Empathy is about driving deep understanding. And what we're learning is the way to drive empathy and the way to build that muscle is through proximity. You got to get close to your customers. You got to get close to the problems you're trying to solve. You have to get close to each other, and you got to be curious and open to really understand, to connect it back to how the people need to come together in a different way to support that purpose.
One of the things I love about what each of you is talking about is recognizing the humanity, right? Recognizing more than just the bottom line, and also knowing that you can't get to a bottom line without having empathy for not only your customers and having acknowledgement, not only for your customers, but for your employees as well. And I often think of employees as lifeblood of a company. My grandfather climbed telephone poles for 40 years and was able to raise a family, back in the Ma Bell days, right? And all of that. And he was very proud of what he did. And I would love, you each take really unique angles in how you respect and honor your employees. And Kate, I'm going to kick it back to you to get us started, around how Microsoft makes sure that this isn't something that's only external, but that the house is also feeling it.
Yeah, for sure. It's about getting the employees actively engaged. And again, it starts with deep understanding of what that purpose is, what you're trying to do. We shine a light on that. We communicate. But then it's about creating almost like an operating system to support the new skills that your employees are learning, right? It's about saying, hey, we're going to make sure that our hiring and recruiting practices are going to reflect the markets that we serve. We're going to have development programs to make sure everybody goes through those learning processes. We're going to celebrate what great looks like, and probably even more importantly, we're going to put performance management systems in so that you get the feedback to understand where it is that you need to change. And then we're going to offer all kinds of skilling, everything from allyship training to, unconscious bias to courageous leadership, to manager training, all sorts of development programs to make sure that we're actually learning the skills to build that more inclusive world, but then that all of the systems and processes that we build inside the company support it so we can see it, celebrate it, give feedback where we need to develop and improve it more, but make it real. And that's the important part, is that it can't just be a talk track and a PowerPoint slide. It's got to be living it every single day and embedded in everything that you do.
Yes, yes, thank you. Calvin and Jimmy, I see you guys looking, nodding, and both of you have expressed dedication to your employees and really digging in deeper. If anything, all three of you are recommitting, right? And doubling down on your commitment to your employees. And Calvin, why don't we start with you? Can you talk to us about how you center your employees in your purpose-driven mission?
I think what I've learned through all of this is I knew it, but it's come to life, is that it has to start at the top. You have to set a tone as to expectations of behavior, expectations of how we engage with our customers, expectations of how we respect one another. Once you set that tone, then it just manifests itself in everything you do. I think a big driver for us is our employee resource groups. Throughout Exelon, we have over 25 to almost 30 different resource groups so employees can get together and it's the celebrating of all of our employees for what they bring to the table. We're not just talking race, gender, sexual orientation. We're talking different ideas, different thoughts, leadership styles, where they come from. You know, Malia, you were saying you were from Hawaii. You bring a different take to it. And it's understanding that and appreciating and making sure every employee knows that they have a voice around the table. You know, we talk about diversity, but I think what's really driven us is our inclusive culture that we're really working to build. And you notice I said working because it's truly not a destination. It's a journey for us. And then we added the component because as we continue to grow, the equity piece to what we're doing. That DEI, that's new for us. I wish I could tell you we were way past that as some organizations, but we just added that E to it because we recognize is that we have to work on leveling the playing field. And that was important for us. And I think a big piece of what I love about the company is also our community input, impact. I talked a little bit about it before, but what's interesting is that we engage our employees in the outreach. We talk about the amount of dollars we give, but what's more impressive is the amount of time employees commit to community service. We require all of our officers across the company to be on at least 2 nonprofit boards in the communities that they live. And then we encourage employees to volunteer. You know, like all of us, we probably have a National Volunteer Day. That's the big one. But what are you doing throughout the year? And we reward those institutions for our employees giving. We give money back. To me, that is the fulfillment of the purpose, and you're living it each and every day. Because employees, you said this earlier, you said, you know, especially the millennials, they look to not only what you say, but what you're doing. And so we're carrying that out. And not only is it a great recruitment tool of who we are, but it's a great retention tool. And it's that retaining that talent. And when you ask them, why are you here? They talk about our engagement, what we give back into the community, and the fact that we're working on building an inclusive culture. I notice none of them say you built this. They say you're working on it, because it's truly a process, because not all leaders are there. And I'll be honest, not all leaders are there. But I can tell you the leaders are rolling up their sleeves and doing the hard work. And we're providing the training if they truly want to get engaged.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, Jimmy, I want to also throw a little bit of color onto this question for you. When Calvin talked about the diversity of diversity, and I know that Accenture looks at supporting employees and also looks at supporting their mental health and you know, them as a whole person. And so I would love for you to jump on in here and also let us know about how you decided to lean in and support that heart and head.
Sure. Thanks, Malia. Well, I think going back to where Calvin finished, our people come to Accenture because they want to do well. They want to build a career here. They see the growth that we've had and the opportunities that we offer. But it's not just about doing well. They want to do good. And so they do want to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And I think that they really look at how we as an organization behave in hard times. And I think by every angle we could measure 2020, whether it's a health crisis, whether it's an economic crisis, whether it's a social crisis, we've had that challenge. And when I think about our employees and how they feel, one of the things I use is to ask, do you feel safe? Do you feel seen? Do you feel connected? And do you feel the courage that you need to go bring your authentic self to work every day? And that's been really difficult because if you think about it, you're worried about your health, you're worried about your job, you're worried about what's going on in our country around you, you're worried about what kind of future you and your children are going to have. So that's put a lot of pressure, I think, on people's mental health. I've had a passion about this because my family and friends, I have had people, that very close to me that have been affected by depression, by anxiety. And I don't think there's anyone that hasn't had to deal with that in 2020 with what everyone's had to endure. So, here at Accenture, we focus a lot, as Calvin mentioned, allies, creating allies. And through our mental health ERG, we developed a 2.5-hour training program. And I had my direct reports, my leadership team as a group all go through that. And it was important because as someone who's grown up in the industry of giving advice to clients, it was important to see that this is not about trying to fix a problem. It's about listening and validating what people are going through, that it's okay not to feel okay. And I think that's really important for all of us. The other thing I will say, there's been a lot of interesting, we talked about yesterday, a lot of just interesting things coming out of 2020. And the fact that we're doing this summit virtually is an example of that. And I think that virtual technology as it relates to mental health is it's going to be huge. You're talking about a subject that people feel is taboo. They don't like to talk about it. But now you've got the opportunity through virtual therapy to do it remotely from your house. And so like for our employees, we offer virtual therapy so they can text, they can email, they can do a phone call or do a video session to support them. And it's also about access because you have a lot of people in this country that do not have access. Our research shows that almost half the countries in the U.S. do not have registered psychologists in their counties. And so now with virtual, you make this accessible by everyone. So I think it's such an important area for us, and 2020 has really shined a light on it.
Thank you. Thank you. And if there's one thing that everyone should be tweeting right now is that it's okay to not be okay. And, there's some people's bosses saying it and your boss is probably saying it too. So know that and be that boss. Thank you so much. We're going to close, and we're going to close with something that I think we're all thinking about, which is how do we scale impact? And right now, corporations are being asked, what are they doing, right, to really help close this wealth gap, to help us see a more level playing field and a more equitable future. And all of your companies have come out strongly with diversity and inclusion goals. And Calvin, we're going to start with you. Can you talk about how, you're expanding this idea of, healthy environments, really beyond energy, right? But to healthy families and a healthy ecosystem within America. And the last thing I'll say before I kick it to you is I want everyone to think if our corporations reach these goals, we do develop a Black and brown middle class. And that's really the role that corporations play with setting these goals. So I want to end with this, how we're going to change America idea.
Thank you, Malia. And great question. But let me start with, we scale it through collaboration and partnership. I have Jimmy and I have Kate on here. They're partners of ours, and when you look at Accenture, they are leaning in and they're doing, but I know we can't do it by ourselves. And it's through the partnerships of powerful organizations sitting back saying we have to break down barriers, climb over walls, and get it done to really push. Second, we have to be very intentional about our efforts. You don't just walk or roll into this. You have to set a plan and hold yourselves accountable. We always say at Exelon, you don't improve it unless you measure it. So on a regular basis, we put the goals in front of us. It's our hiring of Black, brown, and women. What we're talking about doing, we say what we're going to do. We've done a couple of things, and I'll just do this because I want to save my colleagues time. One, Every panel that we put together for an interview, open position, is a diverse panel. Women, men, and color. They're going to be diverse interviewing those candidates. Every job opportunity, a diverse slate has to be presented. No longer is it okay to sit back and say, well, we couldn't find. No, we didn't look hard enough. We're going to do that. And then the executive committee looks at every business operation and says, how are you measuring up on meeting just, if nothing else, those two goals? Because what I found is that when you present opportunity, you end up with a very diverse workforce.
That's right.
So that was one. We also leaned into our recruiting. No longer were we just going to recruit from the same old universities. We started our recruiting back targeting high school students, training them for STEM-related fields so we can create a pipeline to go in. That was next. Also, our workforce development efforts, job-ready adults. We have over 45 programs across the Exelon 6 utilities. Over 700 people have been hired in the last 18 months, not just with us, within our partners. Like your father, was able to raise a family, able to put a daughter through school. This is not just a job, it's a career. And not everyone has to go to college. And we're letting the communities that we serve know that we have a place for you. And I can't tell you how many Black and brown kids came up to me and said, I never thought Exelon could be a place for me.
That's right.
And that's what we're doing. We're breaking down those barriers and showing them that there's opportunity if they're willing. And you have to start early because unfortunately, so many of our children, if we don't get them early, they lose their way. That's why we reached out. That's how you scale this. And then they become your best ambassadors. And then we bring in our partners to say, work with us to get this done.
Yes. Partners, let's kick it to you. Kate.
Yeah, for sure.
About your diversity and inclusion efforts and how you see corporations really helping us build a middle class.
So I think one of the things that is a responsibility of ours, and I heard both Calvin and Jimmy talk about it, is this notion of doing well but then doing good. And what I'm really excited about is that we're using the Microsoft platform to try and drive economic recovery, particularly in the market now, during the pandemic when so many people have lost their jobs. And we can't do it without partners. Both of these gentlemen are deep partners with us. But what we're doing is we're bringing digital skills to all the markets where they're needed most. And we have a program called Accelerate Atlanta, Accelerate Houston. You'll see us accelerating economic recovery in several cities around the U.S. territory to try and bring skills to those who haven't had access to them in the past. It's about leveraging the ecosystem to make sure we are able to do that, to get access to the students, but also to get skills in a way that meets them where they are. We're super excited about it. And I think that really changes the game, because what it does is for people who haven't had access before or have lost their job recently, want to get into the digital game, it helps bridge the divide.
Yes. Thank you, Kate. Jimmy, take us home.
Take us home. Well, it's hard with all the wonderful things that Calvin and Kate have talked about. I don't want to just sort of repeat those wonderful messages, but it starts with goals. We have always been very vocal with setting bold goals, and we announced back in September that we're going to increase our Black, African American, and Latinx Hispanic representation by 60% to be essentially 25% of our workforce. But I think, Kate mentioned the apprentice program. I think that's another important area for us to make a difference, not just within the four walls of Accenture and what we're doing, but in the communities. And it's an area that I'm sensitive to because technology, I think, has the opportunity to be a lifter, but also a divider. And we really want to make sure that we're not leaving our Black and brown communities behind. And I think that's where, like the apprentice program is so important. 3-4 years ago, Accenture did not do a lot of hiring unless you had a college degree, a 4-year degree. And now we have apprentice programs. We're able to go out and train people that, do not have college degrees, may not even have high school degrees, but we can train them on how to do the technology roles in the future. And it's a really important opportunity. I'm going to be sleeping out for the homeless on Thursday night. And again, that's something that we see is so important, is trying to help people leveraging technology to find a job today so they can create a better future for themselves and their family.
Thank you so much, and thank you all of you for joining us, Calvin, Jimmy, Kate. I appreciate your insights and taking the time here at DealBook. And I end with a King quote by either we go up together or we go down together. Let us develop this kind of dangerous unselfishness. Thank you to the three of you, and thank you, DealBook, for giving us a chance to talk about the proof of purpose.